Is this an organic result or a paid result? Eattreat.in that you see on my screen. Thank you so much. So the understanding pretty much is clear. I can move on. So let me just click on Great HR and go to that particular web page. Thank you so much, all. In order to rank themselves like that on the search engine, they had to do a bunch of things which we need to learn and apply to our website. So the first thing is on-page optimization, which is, which page are we talking about here? The opening page, or what is known as the landing page. In the industry, there are a lot of misconceptions around terminologies. I would like to provide absolute clarity on that so that you guys are all on one page. Lot of websites will call its home page as the landing page. For example, Apple also, let's take. This is also commonly called as the landing page. But it's okay if a layman calls it a landing page and it does not really make much of a difference. But as a specialist in marketing, the page that the user lands on the website is technically called a landing page. Now, it's a very broad definition. What are the methods and ways in which a user can land onto a website? That's a question I'm asking you to answer. How do you think users are going to come to your page? There are only two ways. They will search on Google, there will be ads, and there will be organic results. They could either click on the ads and come to the website, or click on the organic search result and come to the website. Is this clear until now? There are two ways, right? Can you please respond with a yes or something? Great. So you're putting in all the effort and making sure that the page is uh, ranking either in the top 10 or coming in the top 3 4 of the search results and all of that. Now, what is the goal of a user to sort of land in your website? All of you are facing audio issues, or it's only some of you? uh, Thank you, Mohammed. Okay, it could be a bandwidth issue at your end, I'm not sure, because most of them it's clear. If the issue continues, please log off and try to log in again. Thank you so much. Now, coming back to the track, what is the goal of a user landing on your web page? Why would you put in all the effort and literally sell your soul to Satan to bring that one user to your website? What is your ultimate goal? Thank you. So, conversion. Can you elaborate that a little bit, please, for the benefit of everybody, Mohini? Maybe in one sentence. There are. Mm, okay, cool. So, we refer to something known as conversions. In the top of the funnel, this person is technically a prospect. Okay, so it's like casting a fishing net out in the ocean and you're trying to get somebody into your fold. Okay, cool. So hold on that thought, all of you, which is to convert into what is something which we will see later. But just conversions is technically the right answer, but there are multiple stages to it which we will talk right now. So from prospect, the minute this person comes to your website, this person becomes a visitor. Okay, this is the journey. All right. From visitor, this person becomes what is known as a lead. Now, this stage is from visitor to lead is known as the conversion process, which is you don't know who your visitor is. The difference between a visitor and a lead is you don't know. This is anonymous. You have no details about this person. When I say it's a lead, it means you know something about them, some identifiable information about them, which is either their email address or their phone number or their contact information or their address or company name or whatever it is. So technically, if you see here, they will have something known as a button, a call to action button. This button is known as CTA. A call to action is basically calling them to take some action, like log in now. That is a call to action. Register for a demo is a call to action. Sign up, schedule a call, try now, start free trial. All of this, these pretty much start with verbs, like literally verbs in English grammar. Start. So it's literally a direct command to the user. So that's how it's normally built. And it has a button shape or whatever it is, wherein you can click and do something. So this process is known as conversion. So the ultimate goal or aim of any campaign, whether it is an organic campaign or a paid campaign, is to generate leads for the business. So let's try clicking on some ads also, just so we can compare both the pages and understand the concept of landing pages clearly, and then move on to what is there on that page and what all you need to optimize on that page. So this is also a landing page, and it has a prominent call to action, actually two calls to action. As far as I know, both of it will do the same thing. No, here there's a long form. Here it's actually again another long form. What the hell have they done? Smart. Okay. And then this page will give you, how do I make this go? Okay. This page will have some information about the product, preferably benefits. Instead of saying my product can do this, my product can do that, it'll tell you what's in it for them, for the user. So it is advised or recommended highly. Nobody is interested. So if somebody is trying to sell you a car, they'll say it's a beautiful blue color, the leather is imported from Italy, and this and that, and all of that. It really won't matter to you. But if they paint a picture that, what I mean, it takes you 45 minutes to go to work from now, and you're switching three modes of transport, you can do it in 30 minutes, and it's only going to cost you so much or something like that. So the golden rule here for any marketer is to showcase the value proposition and be directly associated with the benefits or what the user actually can get from your product, the value, instead of saying my product is the most amazing product, it is the best quality, this, that, and all of that. Don't talk so much about the product. Rather, keep your messaging straight about what are the benefits. That's again slightly a bit of a deviation from the scope of SEO, but it is some really valuable yarn for all of you to sort of implement whenever you're taking your marketing projects. So, and then it will showcase the product with screenshots and things like that. It will tell who it is for and what kind of other systems it will talk to and all of that. It will give you information on the pricing, and for this pricing, what all do you get? And then, of course, any other additional information about App Store or this or whatever, if it's a mobile app or anything like that. And then again, a prominent call to action. So there are 1, 2 in the top, 3, 4, and 5. 5 calls to action in one page, which showcases that how desperately these people want you to sign up. So the whole thing is aimed at something known as CROW, which is conversion rate optimization, which is you do everything and anything within your capacity to make sure that you have all the nuts and bolts in place, and the user can sign in or give them your lead information or convert themselves from a visitor to a lead. So what all do you need to keep in mind here? Any search, irrespective of what results they're clicking on, whether it's organic result or paid result, is something known as intent driven. So this is a golden word. You need to really remember this, which is intent driven. You should understand one thing. A lot of users don't even know what they're looking for. They probably don't even know what their problem is. It's almost like going to a doctor. You may make a lot of assumptions, and even more, if you're very exceptionally stupid, you'll probably Google some symptoms and you will automatically set your mind that you have jaundice or something and go and tell the doctor that I have jaundice, give me medicine, which is very, very stupid, because to diagnose you is a doctor's job and not your own job. So the best thing to do is but again, the real world is very complex. People come in all sizes and shapes. So if a prospect is sitting in front of a computer and googling, he could do anything. Practically, he could type anything. He probably thinks he has one problem, but he actually has a different problem. Or he will just google his symptoms, or he will decide what he wants and google. So there are different types of users. So I'm going to broadly classify them as prospects who have problems and Google their problems directly. So, for example, somebody needs a project management app, which means somebody joined it again and this noise. Okay. Okay. Why am I wasting time? Where am I losing my work day? Too many meetings. So these are problems. Somebody, okay, so let's take a use case where somebody needs a productivity app. Okay, the product here is productivity app. But what are the problems associated with it? Cannot complete my tasks on time. Too many meetings. I am wasting time. How to be more productive? Improving my productivity. In fact, these are kind of solutions. Or approaches rather. Solution is, time management app, time tracking tool, productivity app. So some people don't know what so they have problems and they literally Google. This is category one. Now the second category is slightly better. They know that they have a problem. They have a fair understanding of what solution they sort of probably need or something like that. So they will Google that. So it's like going and telling the doctor that this is frequently I'm getting these headaches, and maybe it is eye or brain or whatever it is. I don't know. That's your job. You need to tell me. So giving a little bit more clarity on the problem, instead of saying that, yesterday I had this massive headache. Immediately the doctor will ask, is it regular or is it only one off? So being a little more intuitive and sensitive and telling the doctor that, this happened last, 10 days back, and then it's a 10 days back, and things like that. So giving more information, which sort of leads you closer to the solution instead of acting on an impulse. So these people, this kind of category B is a little more thoughtful than category A. But being category A is absolutely okay, because you're not making any assumptions and stuff. Now, category C is a little bit of a danger zone. because they think they know the problem, they think they know the approach, they think they know the solution also. If they are right, which is probably the case 70% of the times, there is no problem. But 30% of the times, you could be applying the wrong solution to a wrong problem. Even as humans, we are all making erroneous judgments all the time, which is absolutely okay. I mean, human nature is basically flawed. It's not perfect or anything. So it's okay to be flawed. But if you are actually implementing a wrong solution, a wrong fix to a wrong problem, then you're inviting new problems, right? So in category C, people directly Google what they want. So as a company which makes productivity apps, you need to focus on all the three categories, which means you need to have website built to which instantly in one page you need to be able to satisfy the needs of category A, category B, category C, because all the three are different sizes and shapes of the same target audience, which is highly relevant to you. I hope this is clear. Are you guys with me on until this point? A yes would be very effective. Thank you. So when you're building the landing page or when you're building a proper web page, it needs to it needs to have something to take away for all the three categories, correct? So this is where the idea of on page optimization comes in, which is to design and deliver content that the user is seeking, can relate to, and to make the page easily discoverable on the search engine. Hang on. Okay. So whenever you open a search result, it opens a web page. And the framework in which web pages are built is known as HTML, which is hypertext markup language, which I'm sure most of you are at least heard of if you have not done anything more than that. So we need to understand one thing here.
Do I do then? There's one audio option. Just take once. It must be selected mic and speaker.
Okay. So this page that it opens is a HTML page, and it has several elements. If you can,
Yeah, it is coming now. Yeah.
I'm going to open the same page on Chrome because it's a lot more easier for you to see instead of Safari. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So you just need to right click and click view page source. You will see the HTML page for any web page that you see on the internet. You don't need to know how to code. In any organization, typically you have web developer support who would develop these pages for you and all of that. So as an SEO specialist, you don't need to worry about how this page is constructed, what is the code behind it, what is CSS and all of that. I mean, you need to know at a high level or at a top level as to what it is, but that awareness is enough. You know, I hope you've heard of something called as a RACI matrix. So there are four stages: responsible, aware, concerned, and interested. So as an SEO, you're definitely not responsible for the HTML code. It is the developer's responsibility. If you are aware, you are at a position of advantage. You really need to be concerned about it and interested in it. You cannot brush it under the carpet saying it's very technical. I don't come from a computer science background, so I really don't understand this stuff. I need to be an SEO, but I can't do this technical stuff. It's way too complex for me. Trust me, it's not rocket science at all. It's one of the most simplest and the easily structured things. Why I'm saying simple is not because of the experience or what I've seen or anything like that. Anything which is very structured is and logical is something which largely appeals to the human brain very easily. You understand structured data pretty simple. Summer, autumn, winter, spring, you understand seasons. It comes in a certain order, right? And the same way, your calendar, January to December, it is in a order. It's in a sequence. You remember. You remember your recipes in the kitchen with your favorite recipes pretty easily without any reference or anything. Out of muscle memory, you can do it because it's just a logical sequence of operations. The same way, HTML as a language is very, very logical. It doesn't need so much of brain power and thought process and all of that. It's just an arrangement of code in a certain fashion. So there is no need to be worried or afraid or anything, even if you don't come from that kind of a background. It's fairly simple and straightforward to understand. Let's try gathering some understanding of it today. So, the agenda will be HTML basics, which is what are the different elements, tags, and attributes. CSS basics, which is cascaded style sheets, which is responsible basically for all your branding and colors and consistency and styling elements across your web page. I will explain it in detail when we come to that slide. And some really high level stuff on JavaScript, because most websites run on JavaScript today. So that is pretty much the agenda for today. So, as you can see, HTML basically stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Mr. Tim Berners-Lee is the person who invented it, a great computer scientist who I think is still alive. Uh, this is basically what structures the framework or the layout or how a web page is actually built. So this is like the skeleton of your body, right? So this is the shape and the structure and the figure and everything else of you depends on the skeleton. So HTML framework is pretty much comparable to that. And in order to, so, but your skeleton alone doesn't make you a person, right? You have a certain skin tone, you have skin color, you have a shape, you have some duskiness or whatever associated with you. There are so many other things which describe you as a person. So the same way, a website has its own set of attributes, and it needs skin, fat, and everything else to sort of give you a proper shape which is recognizable. Otherwise, every web page is pretty much the same. It's like a human skeleton, right? You won't know what it is or who it is or whatever. So tags are what function as like the skin and the flesh and all of that, which is very unique to a person and helps you identify a person. The same way these browser tags help you identify different websites by just having one look at it. Excuse me. So this is the template of a standard HTML code, which is it always starts with HTML as a tag. This greater symbol and lesser symbol that you see is known as a tag. You know, this V, which is 180 degrees shifted this way and that way, opening bracket, closing bracket. That's known as a tag. So anything which is within these angular brackets is known as an HTML tag. And the standard structure for any website globally would be it will start with HTML. It ends always it. So this is the starting, and to symbolize the ending, there is a slash, which is so HTML slash HTML. Then the next stage is head, which is what is the heading, and then there is title. After that, they've closed the head. In between, they close the title also. So anything is encompassing. It's like a container. Anything which comes is like a container within these opening tags and the closing tags. So this is broadly the structure of a HTML page. I'm going to open a few HTML pages and just show you, for example. It starts with HTML. Ignore what's rest of it and all of that. It will end with slash HTML. So within that, you have the head until this. Inside that, there is title of the page. And then after the header section finishes, the main body of the page begins. And then it goes on. It has a whole bunch of stuff within it, which we will see. So you can take the liberty to open any website that you want, right click, view source, and just identify head tag, title tag, meta tag, and all of that. I'm going to type some of these. Just do it as we see so that you are on the same page. Open any web page, right click, and go to view page source or view source, depending on whatever browser you're using. Some page with a lot of programming and coding will open. Open that and identify these tags. Just do this. I'm going to give you a minute to do this. And once done, just tell me done. Is it done, guys? Are you done? Can you respond? Thank you, Lana. Let's wait for like our friends to finish as well. A few of them at least. This one is Google Chrome. Which one are you using, Mohammed? I use Safari also, but it comes in a very different interface. So, okay. So, are you having problems doing this, Mohammed? What is the issue? Can you type? Which web page are you opening? Can you ping the link? Ping the link. No, why do you want to say same link as me? Just ping the link. It makes life a lot simpler. Thank you so much. Are we here? Are you seeing this? Okay. Right click. Do you see this option? View page source. Do you see this, Mohammed? Click on it. Does this open? All right. So are you able to identify the tags, head and meta and everything else? Great. Thank you so much. So good to know that you're all on the same page, picking up pretty fast. Moving on. So like I said, the angular brackets that you see indicate that they are tags and not part of the other part of the code. And whenever there is a slash, that is known as the closing tag. Pretty straightforward. Now, within the web page, there can be hyperlinks, which is links to other web pages, either within the same website or a different website. So the tag that is used for that is ahref. Let's just go back to the web page and see how they've used href. Yeah. So there are, you see this ahref. So this is a link to some other page. The same way there are multiple. So to the sign up page, whenever you click on the sign up button, which says sign up now, it will go to a different web page, which is sign up. So this way you can embed hyperlinks within the web page. I do understand that this might seem like really basic LKG stuff for some of you, but I would request you to be sensitive to other members in the class who probably are hearing this term for the first time, and I need to sort of cater to everybody in the spectrum, and hence I'm going this slow. So these are the examples, whenever there is ahref, so it's going to some complete guide page and all of this. So I hope you can understand. Are you on the same page? Okay. The next important tag which is important for SEO is images. So which comes under the IMG SRC tag. You need to know that this SRC is basically source as to where this image is, and you give the file name. The alt is the text which comes when you hover on a particular image. And of course, you have specifications in terms of width and height as to how the image itself will appear. But from a SEO perspective, there are only certain things which are very, very important about an image, which we'll see. So if you see here, it says source, img tag, source, which is the link of the image, and it has an alt text, which is payroll processing, optimized for the keyword. If you remember, we typed payroll software in Google and came here. So this alt text actually says payroll processing. So whenever a web page has images, as an SEO specialist, your job is to make sure that the image has a meaningful file name. Developers can do anything. They'll name it 1.jpg or a1.jpg or dummy1.jpg or whatever. Not only becomes difficult to identify for you as a person who's managing the website, but also for the search engine. Instead, having meaningful names like GHR payroll.svg, which is GreyHR payroll.svg, and having an alt text which describes what that image technically is a very good practice. Not just a good practice, it's a mandatory practice. I'm going to write down the rules of these codes and tags and all of that yet again in my document. So don't worry about it. We'll do a recap. For now, I'm okay. So we are done. When I say HTML, framework in which the web page is built. It technically consists of tags which are within these brackets, simple. This is how it is. Some basic tags, example, okay. Now, important tags for SEO on page. Title, image, link, headers. These are some really important tags in terms of SEO from an SEO standpoint. The title tag is what you see here. When you hover the mouse here, some text will come here in highlighted thing. Just payroll. Excuse me. So this one says some keywords, which is payroll software India, payroll processing, payroll management system, great HR. Where will this appear? Let's see. Open on another browser. This page title says payroll and HR software India, best HR solution, great HR. If you remember, in the search results page, this is what appeared. Payroll and HR software India, best HR solution. So this is what the user actually sees in the search results page. This is before even he comes to your website. So this title is the most prominent thing. We normally click on search results reading this title. So you need to give this title exactly tailor-made to your user the way it is. So page title is one very important HTML tag. The next one is image. The way your images are named, the size optimization, you cannot have really heavy images because it will increase the loading time of the page, which will affect your page quality score. So your image should be optimized in terms of size of image, width and height. It should look meaningful on a browser, and then it should be named properly. The file name and the alt text should be proper. It should not be random. The next one is linking. You cannot have broken links on a web page. Your hyperlinks should be working, and You should have an appropriate balance of hyperlinks within your website and outside your website. There is no thumb rule as to which is the right balance. I'm sure that question will crop up. How much is right? We cannot say that. The rule here is use judgment. Don't spam it with so many links to within your page also and outside your web page also. Give proper attributions and references. The sense if you're using a statistic from a website called Statista or using a wiki commons page or something like a image in your website, just give that these are the references from which I've taken these. So being honest and truthful is very, very important because search is very, very intent driven. SEO is not just a lame job where you have a 15-point checklist and you do it and you're sorted. It's a very, very intelligent and a sensitive job, and maintaining a humane level connection with your prospect, thinking on his feet, having a lot of. There's a certain keyword which I'm about to use. I'm going to ask you what is it. Dash is the most important skill you need to have for being a good search specialist. What is this dash? You just give me your version. Keywords. I am disappointed. More. You're not entirely wrong, Mohammed, but my expectation is something different. Dash is the most important skill you need to have. This is a human skill. Leave your SEO, leave your technical stuff for now. Anybody else? Knowledge is for everything, not just for SEO. Analyzing. Keep it coming quickly, 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 quickly. Content. I gave you. Shivani is very close to the actual thing. Mohini also is kind of close, but Shivani is closer to the word that I want to use. This is the word empathy. Empathy and sympathy are different. I'm not going to make this an English class by teaching you this difference, but quickly in one line, I will say sympathy is like this helpless feeling where you understand somebody's problem and say, oh dear, I'm so sorry. That is sympathy. People, that's not very desirable. Generally, people don't like sympathy. Strong people especially. Now, empathy is different. Empathy is being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and looking at a situation. Even as a human, this is a very, very good quality to have because your angry outbursts will not happen as much because when somebody is yelling at you, your instinct won't be to yell back immediately, but immediately switch gears in your head and put yourself in that same situation as to why they're shouting at you, understand with reason, and if it's unfair, then yell back. If it's fair, then just handle the situation objectively. So it's a very, very important tool in life to have. I mean, just saying. I mean, take it or leave it. But as an SEO, please take it. It's very, very important for you to have this skill of empathy. Only then you will be able to identify and understand what is category A user, what is category B user, category C user. Even if you cannot conceive how they think or how they operate, how they function, how they will search, what is their everyday life like, what is their problem sort of looking like, you cannot really create content which will appeal to them. So this is the most important skill that you need to have. And if this is sorted, then most of your SEO is pretty much sorted. So you will get all these technical knowledge as to how to use Google AdWords, how to use Google Analytics, how to use Google Webmasters, how to use Schema, or how to use that search engine plugin on WordPress. These how to's you will anyway pick it up because there is no other way. You're sitting in front of a computer. Most of the tools tell you step one, step two, step three with a self help guide and a tour and all of that. And SEO is something which you can just learn it that way also. What somebody would not tell you or teach you is the human side of it and the business side of it, which is how do you actually apply the skills that you have. Just because you know how to use a gun doesn't mean anything at all. You can use it to shoot somebody, you can use it to shoot yourself, you can use it to, play a sport and just shoot that around a ring or target or whatever it is. You can use it to shoot an animal, hunting for sport, or a bow, whatever it is. You can use it for self defense. So, knowing how to shoot is a skill, which is a very, very dangerous skill, because unless you don't know the other elements of it, the human elements of it, and where to actually use it, it is a very, very dangerous skill. The same way, any skill for that matter is absolutely useless and could also be very counterproductive if you don't know how to use it. And this is where most of my focus would be to throughout the course. As to, I will of course teach you on those tools, which is very simple also. And I don't believe in spending too much time on that, because every tool keeps changing all the time. I will teach you something. In 1 week, something will be changed in the user interface and you'll be super confused. So it's all about getting your hands dirty and just going to the tool and start playing around yourself, and you will automatically figure out. So that pace of, and then of course come back to me for any questions. For example, in Google Analytics, you don't know how to export a certain report or how to set up a certain goal configuration, So these kind of technical questions I'm always happy to answer. But I will not spoon feed you saying, hey, step one, go to Google. Step two, put username. Step three, put password. Click on this. I will not spoon feed you like that. That is up to you to figure out. I will show you once how to do it. Recordings will be shared, which you can follow. But beyond that, I expect you to do some reading and going and hands on doing some things and coming back to me with questions and basically bombarding me with questions. Definitely not before 9:15, but after 9:15. So, coming back, uh, we've seen title, we've seen image, we've seen links. The final thing which is left is header. So, there is this particular tag in HTML which is called H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, and all of that. So, until H6, we've seen it's very common, you can see in all web pages. So, when you, I'll show you something, hold on. So, there's this particular tool, just try your own HTML or something like that. I'm going to share this. Don't do it right now, just observe for now. You can play around with it later. So do you see the size variation for each type of header tag, which is H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. So this is one of the important tags for SEO. Your primary keywords should be covered in H1 tag. This is one of the things the search engine or the bot sort of looks for in a web page, because it's almost like writing a document or a blog or something with proper formatting. It will have a title, it will have a subtitle or a subheading or whatever, and then every paragraph will have its own header. So as a human, you're used to reading books in a certain way, arranged in that logical fashion. The same way a digital paradigm of that, which is your web page, also needs to be structured like that. So you open a book and it says introduction. That's a pointer for you. And it gives you the understanding that, oh, this is the introduction. And then you read it, right? The same way, a user also digests information from the web page the same way. So it's important for you to structure information like that. You can just go about building a page like this, which is something like this. If you're going to arrange information in a way like this versus showing information like this, there's a huge difference. People might not have the patience or the ability to understand it the way you put it as running material. So visually, a page needs to be organized in a certain way. And for at least for that reason, you demonstrate empathy and use header tags properly with the right keywords. Primary keywords should be in H1. So I hope the tag section is pretty much clear with you guys. I'm going to move on to CSS basics. Like I said, styling is very, very important for a web page. When I say styling, what is the font that you're using in your website throughout? What are the kinds of colors that you're using in your website? What is this allowed typical standardization in terms of font sizes? That is another thing. So CSS is a language that describes the style of an HTML document, and this essentially describes how each element should be displayed, which is like the cosmetic part of the web page. HTML largely deals with the architecture of information and content on a web page, just that CSS is what gives a sense of style to it. You know, you being a person like normally versus you being a person wearing clothes of your choice which reflect your personality, wearing some makeup and or some grooming if you're a man, and wearing makeup if you're a woman, and all of that. So certain things define you as a person, right? So the cosmetic parts of it, the packaging part of it. So that is what CSS does for a web page. So some of the things that you define here are: what is the background color, what is the text color, what is the alignment, what is the font size, what is the font family. All of these fancy things which make something look beautiful is dealt with in CSS. Technically, yes, I can say formatting of the content, but it's not just formatting alone, formatting and beyond, I can say. This bit you have very little control of as an SEO, but just awareness is important, which is HTML. What is the difference here between HTML and JavaScript? I'm sure some of you know HTML, some of you know JavaScript and all of that. So I'm just asking this question to you guys. What according to you is the difference? If you don't know, that's okay. If you know, you can tell me. Mohammed, any answers? Okay. And JavaScript is? Okay. I'll show you something. One moment, please. Hmm. Usually CSS is not exposed, but in the same page source, you can actually type CSS and you can just see. But it's like this: how your files and folders are organized in your computer, the same way it is in the form of folders. So the styling is basically called from the folder where it is saved. It's not something which you can technically see. It's like air, you breathe it. It is very important to your existence, but you cannot touch it, feel it, see it. So your CSS, I cannot show you for that reason, like literally, but it's there. Like somebody said, HTML is just the code in which the page is built, but every page has certain workflows, certain logic behind it, and certain functionality. You can just build a page which looks like this, like a mock-up or something like that, but when you click on it, something happens. When you do this, this happens. When you do that, that happens. When you slide on this, something happens. So you need something to give life to that page and some sense of responsiveness to that page. That is the difference between HTML and JavaScript. So let's say a person, I mean, it's a very depressing kind of an example, but I can't think of a better example. A person is alive, but is comatose, or what they say, coma. The person is alive. You can identify the person. They're wearing clothes that they would normally wear. They look very normal and all of that. But when you're about to slap them, they won't tuck their head. When you're about to give shake hands, they won't do anything. So it's that kind of a situation. So what gives reflexes to a person? The same way JavaScript gives to a web page, which is it makes it alive, makes it interactive. Doesn't mean without JavaScript it's a dead page or something like that. Not really, literally, but for understanding sake, make sure. I mean, I just thought this example might be helpful. So that is the difference between HTML and JavaScript. Uh, how a page behaves and how you are able to interact with a particular page. The way you program that is done on JS and not HTML. So the behavior of web pages, like I said. These are some random jazzy names. I would say that this knowledge is really not useful because either you get into it deep and learn jQuery properly. Just knowing the name jQuery might make you sound like a knowledgeable person, but your stupidity will be exposed in like flat 10 seconds. So never even go down that track. But one thing which you need to be aware of is what is the influence of JavaScript on SEO or search engine optimization. I'm just thinking if I should do it now or it's getting a little too much and I can like move it to the next class or something. Just allow me a minute to decide. Hold on. It is done along with HTML, ma'am. That's the turf of a web developer technically. It is developed along with your HTML. Exactly, Mohammed. So if you have a submit button, no, I won't say yes, Mohini. It's a very valid question. Why is JavaScript in an SEO session? It's a very, very valid question. Before that, let me answer Mohammed's questions. Okay, we are slipping slowly into the question zone. It's almost 9:10, and I did promise that until 9:10 I will not take questions, and after this it needs to be an interactive session. So to answer this, uh, not just actions like submitting a button. So the question here is, so for example, JavaScript is what powers the submit button function in a web page. Is what Mohammed has asked. I would say not really. You can configure workflows in HTML also to a certain extent. So you need Java on your phone also. So to be able to interact with any digital system, you need an interface. You need a certain interface. That interface or the middle layer is your JavaScript. Okay. Uh, what is your smartphone? It's just a bunch of screens, correct? You click this, it's a screen. You touch that, that's a screen. You swipe this way, it's a different screen. You swipe that way, it's a different screen. Now, how it behaves based on your touch or whether on your gesture or whatever. Today, it's gestures also, right? You can just shake your phone and something will happen. You look at it, you point it at your eyes and it will unlock. So these are gestures. So the way you interact with can be any kind of a gesture by a touch or a swipe or a glance or a I don't know any other way to interact with any medium. How it behaves for each gesture, that interactive capability is powered by JavaScript. To answer Mohini's question, her question is why is JavaScript in an SEO session? Because JavaScript is huge. You know, people spend years and a lot of money to learn JavaScript and all of that. And you cannot learn that in a 12-week SEO course in any case. So what is the point of putting it in this course? That's just a very good question. You need to know that there are some factors. I will list down the total factors in terms of on-page SEO which affect your performance. JavaScript is one of the important things because if your web page is taking a long time to load, high loading time, it is a red flag. It is a problem. It could be a JavaScript issue. It could be bad scripting, just horrible scripting. So you have to make guesses there and talk to your web developers and make sure that they fix that JavaScript. And the second is if you are using some commands, there is a chance that it hides your web page from the purview of the search engine. So that also is another thing to watch out for. So there are a few pitfalls in JavaScript which an SEO should be aware of because the page will be fine, everybody can see it, but results won't come. So the web developer is not closer to the problem in terms of low traffic. It is the SEO who is closer to the problem. So he or she should do whatever it takes to make sure that everything is right and you get ranked in the search engine. So another thing which can go wrong here is you see in terms of crawlability, wrong commands or wrong way of scripting can blacklist your website from being seen by the search engine. So it can literally block search engines. And the same way, if your linking is not correct or your interactions are very haphazard, that also affects your SEO performance. So that is the reason JavaScript is in this. Any programming is kind of subject to error. No developer can code like God. But there is a certain degree of tolerance. If there are too many errors on a page, like you click on something, nothing opens. Or if you click on a button, it says start free trial, but when you click on it, something else opens, which is absolutely bizarre. So these kind of errors or not having support for certain browsers, that also so I said JavaScript is all about the interfacing layer, the way something is rendered, so a web page needs to consistently be rendered in the same way on Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, everywhere. So but each browser has its own uniqueness and the way it shows things. So how do you make sure that the same web page, the same URL gives a consistent experience to the user across browsers? Again, the answer is JavaScript. And when I say JavaScript, if you make a mistake in JavaScript, it might become absolutely incompatible to certain browsers. Do you have control on what browsers your prospects can search on? You may say 99% is on Google Chrome. Yes, but some of them are not. And they are also your prospects. How do you reach out to them? So you have to make sure that your JavaScript does not absolutely place a ban or a block on any kind of website or search engine or whatever it is. Latency. If your page is way too heavy, either in images or in content is still okay, because text is very less memory consuming, so it's okay. If you have a lot of actions configured, lot of scripting, a lot of images which are very heavy and stuff, it will affect your loading time. If your loading time is affected, users, you have to be empathetic. They don't have all the time in the world until Christmas to wait for your one page to load. They will just close it and go to the next search result and get what they want and go off. So to be cognizant of that fact, JavaScript is very important. This is a hack for developers. I'm not going to touch it because none of you have a clue of JavaScript. So inside that, what you will do to avoid render blocking is absolutely irrelevant knowledge for you guys. So I'm not going to sort of spend time on this and teach you what is render blocking and all of that. That brings us to the end of HTML, CSS, JavaScript basics. We have another 15 minutes left. I'm going to take 2-minute breather and wait for a few questions. Do we need CSS to edit our website, or is WordPress tools enough? Lovely question. There are multiple ways of building a website. Broadly, there are 3 types of websites. I'll just give you this explanation. This will be helpful to you. One is a standard HTML website. Second thing is a WordPress, all these platforms, Laravel, Yevo, and all of these front-ending tools, websites which are built on these platforms or CMS platforms or web platforms, whatever you want to call them, content management system platform. And the third one is your hybrid website, where some pages are actually coded in HTML and maintained as HTML. Some parts of the website which are needing frequent changes and stuff are kept on WordPress. What if the web page is already made and company doing SEO after some time? In that case, what do we do? You assess where we are currently, and then you take a call from that. I don't understand what the question is. The company is already having a website. What do we do? Meaning, it is very use case specific, right? If the company has a website on a very sucky platform, then the first thing I would do is change the platform from something else to WordPress or to HTML. So depends on. So you're leaving a lot of room for assumption for me, and I have to answer this like an essay type answer. I would say make your question a little more specific. I have something for you, very interesting. Hang on. You asked if PWA will change SEO or not. Give me 1 second. I'm not going to give you absolutely a direct answer and spoon feed you. Instead, I'm going to give you one article which is very interesting and a very nice viewpoint. Of course, it has a very higher education context to it. Uh, Alish, click on this link and read this after the session. There is a reason I don't want to take this in detail right now also, because this sounds like rocket science to a lot of people here and I don't want to confuse everybody. So, I don't remember receiving anything on WhatsApp. If you won't mind, can you please send it again after the class? Thank you. I hope you have the right number. We have about, yeah, I will share this document file absolutely. We have about 10 minutes. I'm going to start on page and just cover the first two slides before we close for today. And then in detail, we can see on Thursday on page and then move on to off page. So, what is on page SEO? We will see this definition of SEO multiple times in this course. Don't memorize it, try to understand this. The art and science, remember it says art, and of course it says science also. The art and science of optimizing your website both internally and externally so that it ranks higher in the natural / organic listings of a search engine. So the later part is very clear, which is ranking higher in the organic listings of a search engine, which we saw already. Now I said there are two factors here, which is one is on page and the other is off page. So the corresponding terminology here is internally and externally. So this internal optimization, all the stuff that we are talking right now, like keep proper page title, name your images properly, don't have broken links, don't have too many scripting, name your header tags correctly, include your primary keywords in the header tags. So like 6, 7 best practices which we said, right? All of those are checklist items or steps to make sure that your page is properly optimized for the search engine. Now, the most interesting part of the definition is the art and science. Most of it was like a chemistry lab experiment. I told you step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, right? So it's very scientific. What is artistic about the whole thing? Why do they say the art and science of optimizing your website? Where is art here? Think and answer. Content information. Oh, sorry. I mean, I'm not sharing my screen. Damn. Okay. Do you see this? I'm going to read it once again for your benefit. The art and science of optimizing a website both internally and externally so that it ranks higher in the natural organic listings of a search engine. Presentation format. Okay, one answer. Guys, think, no? More people to answer, except those 4 or 5 names which are interacting with me constantly. I don't see much of an interaction. So, while we are thinking, please do this also. The question is, yet again, the art and science of optimizing a website. So all of the things which we saw in on page, where I said a lot of rules like you have to have a correct title which the user can relate to. Images need to be properly alt text. They need to be properly file named and all of that. So these are all like best practices. Everything is like a step by step kind of a thing, like a chemistry lab. So which is highly scientific. So which part of SEO is artistic? Why does the definition have to say the art of optimizing a website? Art and science are always said to be in conflict, right? In general. Okay, I'm getting some answers. Oh God, empathy for us ज़्यादा हो गया. It's become a little too much now. Uh, Yes, perfect. Finally, somebody nailed it. A round of applause to Manjari, which is the UI, UX, graphics, and visualization bit. One of the important factors for higher ranking in a website is time spent by the user on your page. I said Google is a pleaser. It wants people to come back to it. So it better give people what they want. How does Google measure that if somebody got what they want? You go to a store, you ask them, do you have something? If they say no, you immediately walk away. You would spend barely 2 seconds in that shop. The same way, a website is like a shop. So if a user comes in and doesn't find what he wants, it is partially the website's fault, but it's majorly the search engine's fault because it misdirected the user to a location where he can't find what he wants. So as a robot, one of the ways search engine uses to measure that is time spent on page. The assumption here is if a user spends time on a page, he probably found what he wants or he's interested in what he's seeing, which means he is not upset with me as a search engine. He's absolutely okay. That is what the implied meaning is. So time spent on the page is very, very important. From school, especially if you have done in India, you would know in 10th standard or 12th standard, you probably won't know the correct answer for a lot of descriptive type questions, but you will have 27 color pens and you will highlight it, write it in capital, you know, underline it or write keywords and stuff. So you'll present it in a really beautiful format that it will give an impression as though you're super sorted and clear in your head, and you might get a few bonus marks for that. We might have done that, nostalgia. So the same way, when you apply art to a page, when a page looks really, really beautiful, people are going to spend time on it. So the more time people spend on a web page, the more complementary it is to your SEO effort. So that is one of the places where the artistic element comes in. This is one of the reasons why so many sites which I opened here have some creative elements, like some 300 or GOT type character trying to fight, some kind of a creative visualization which not just verbally explains in a textual format but also tries to explain a concept to user in a much more beautiful way, which makes you, there's a lot of text here because you'll stay here and read some of them at least. So it helps in giving a lot of information in an easier and a more digestible kind of a format to the user. So this is the place where art comes in. The page should look pleasing and appealing. You won't feel like going to, let's say, some Doordarshan website, right? Because it's very clunky looking and ugly looking. Even if you want something, you'll try not to go there because it's just not fun anymore. So it's not going to help your SEO in any way. So this is where the art bit of it comes in. I hope I've made myself clear. Uh, this bit let's do tomorrow because it kind of is the summary of all of on-page optimization. We've only done bits and pieces of it. The HTML portion, which is title, header, alt, meta, all of this we have done. We are yet to do a lot more. So this might confuse you a little bit. Hence, I'm going to stop right here and we're going to continue this tomorrow. We have about 3 minutes or 2 minutes left for today's session. So if you have any questions, please send in. Send the feedback also. And some of you had questions on the assignment. Can you brief about UI and UX? Definitely, I can. So UI basically stands for user interface, which is what he sees. UX basically stands for user experience, which is what he gets. We have in the digital parlance something known as YCWIG, which is what you see is what you get, which is somewhat correct only. But a page might look really beautiful, but when you click on something, nothing will work. So your UI is great, but your UX is not great. It's like one of those fancy looking shops where you go, pay a lot of money, buy something, and by the time you step out of the store, it kind of breaks. Your experience at the end of the day is not great, right? I mean, your retail experience was great, but your experience with the product was not great. So this is the difference between UI and UX. UI is what you put out there directly, visually, people can see. UX is half dependent on them also. What they do and how you respond to it, and the overall experience for the user in your web page. That is user experience. So this is the difference between UI and UX. Feedback link I'm going to share again. Yes, please take this. We have just about 1 minute. Regarding keywords in H1, keyword may be anywhere in body copy. I'm not understanding the question quite. Can you please articulate it a little more clearly? Yes, Arpit, 1 second. Hold on. Mohini, please articulate your question a little more clearly. I'm having a hard time understanding it. H1 could be for web page title, blog title, anywhere. There's no restriction to that. Oh, correct. That is the one which is largest is H1. Correct. Okay, your keywords can need to come multiple times in the content, but try to cover it in the header. Okay, I would say one more thing. Instead of setting boundaries and rules like this for yourself, just use common sense. You don't plug in keywords into a web page. You decide what topic you want to write on, what are the core elements or core keywords around that topic, and how do you want to structure them. How can you make it very easy for the user to seamlessly glance a web page in a structure and dig into each subsection, and those section headings go as headers. So if it's a major heading, it goes as H1. If it's a little bit of a lesser importance or a subheading 1A, 1.1.A, these kind of questions you would have seen in question paper, right? So the same way, your header sequence also matters. So a lot of times your secondary keywords will get covered in the smaller headers like H3, H4, and your primary ones will get covered in H1, H2. As such, there is no rule or anything sort of to it. So that brings us to the end of it. Thanks so much. Today was a little more productive and an effective session, I think. Uh, let's continue this day after tomorrow. In between, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to share the recording in a bit. Thank you. Manjri, 1 second. What are the basic heads to be covered or answered while creating a buyer persona? Is there a specific template? Yes. There's no specific template, but in the tennis player example, there was a format, no name, age, gender, income group, and all of that. Refer to those slides, and you may want to stick to that template. I hope that clarifies. Great. Good night, people. See you. Thanks.